never seen a smile so big on my little Lord lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. How we doing, CFN? Always a pleasure to spend Monday night with you folks. And I have to say, it is an honor to be able to spend Family Day weekend, Family Day Monday with all of you. And I'll tell you, it's a privilege to have you here. I'm humbled to have you here because I know how busy folks are, being at Family Day weekend. But Steve, always in the house. There's going to be a lot of announcements, so I don't want to take up too much time in the very beginning. We have a special guest. Scott Sprague will be with us with Big Jim. Of course, Lawrence is going to be giving us some really cool information about something that he's working on, but he wants your help as well. So stay tuned to that. And of course, Jay has a surprise. If anybody wasn't at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show last afternoon, we're going to be sharing that with you folks. Something that I knew was going to happen. It was just inevitable. It was just a matter of time, but it finally did. So stay tuned to that. And of course, we are going to be giving away another $100 in show bucks that, as I said, is closely approaching. But we do have a lot of things to get to, so I'm not going to delay anything more. So I will just say hello to Richard. I'm going to say hello to Corey. Scott Stewart's in the house, all the way over in BC, man. Thank you for joining us tonight. Bob, it was a pleasure seeing you this weekend at the show. Adrian's in the house. Laura's here. How you doing, Mike? Sparkus, thanks for all you did this weekend, man. It was a great weekend. Ed, it was nice to see the whole family. And then somebody else took my attention. I turned around and the whole family was gone. So I apologize for that. But to the McKenzie family, it was awesome to see you three out. And Ed, it was as always. It's always fun to see you. Jay, we'll be getting to you as well because we do have an announcement on behalf of you. Manny as well. Great seeing you, my friend. And, of course, Stephen Reach is in the house. Lloyd, yeah, baby. All right, let's get to the announcements because, as I said, we got lots to talk about today. First and foremost, our condolences to our good buddy Sean Quinn, who was an integral part of this past weekend at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. He built our backdrop that held all of our apparel. So folks who saw the banner. Sean put that together, and unfortunately, right now he's grieving. He's lost his Uncle Jim, more like his grandpa, but because he had lost his grandpa when he was really young. Uncle Jim really stepped in, and it sounds like he was the highlight of the whole family. Everybody loved Uncle Jim. So unfortunately, we are mourning Uncle Jim's passing, and our thoughts are with you, Sean. But again, bud, thanks for this weekend. You were an integral part of our success. Speaking of which, thanks also for all those who dropped by. I can't thank everybody enough that came by the booth and said hello. As I said, you folks, you make it, you give us the reason to do all this. And for those who aren't aware of it, of course, this was what I'm talking about. This was just this past weekend, Family Day weekend. It wrapped up yesterday at 5. Moose and I didn't get out of there till probably around 8 or 9. But it was cool because we didn't really get a chance to talk all that much during the show. So it was cool just to reconnect at the end of it. So, and as I said, Moose, I can't thank you enough, bud, dude. There's a lot that goes on at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show that Moose has a hand in. And I don't know that a lot of people know that. So a big shout out, thank you to Moose for all you do. And of course, Jeff was there as well. And our good buddy Steve and Don showed up on Saturday. So we had a family day. It was a family thing going on at the OFC Nation booth. But a big shout out to that. And of course, running into it was cool meeting some new people as well. Buck Fishes. I have never met Buck Fishes. We featured him only once, maybe twice. Love the kid. The guy has got so much passion, and he gets folks fishing. I don't know. He's got an aura around him that I love the guy, and it was such an honor to meet Buck. So Buck, I can't wait to fish with you, wet a line with you, spend some time with you on the wharf there or on the Detroit River. So hopefully we can get down in April and spend some time. But it was awesome meeting you, and of course Jay Pierce. Never met Jay Pierce, but first time, of course, was this weekend. Jay, it was awesome to hang out with you. And Jay wanted me to remind you of this because this is upcoming and folks need to register ASAP. This is the Spring Catfish Extravaganza. Okay, it is Saturday. Basically, you have to get registered immediately because it starts Saturday, March 30th to Sunday, April 23rd or 28th, I think it says. This derby consists of 4 one-week mini derbies with weekly prizes for first, second, and third place by length. Champions prizes are awarded to the angler with the greatest total length of their best 3 fish. Big fish prize awarded to longest fish submitted during the whole derby. Entry fee is $25 an angler and can be paid via e-transfer to loacatfish@gmail.com. For cash sign up, please stay tuned as they will be sharing details on that. But really cool that you've got the London, Ontario Fish On group that is basically sponsoring this. You've got the Spring Catfish Extravaganza Ontario group that's helping with this, and the Friends of Fishing Sarnia group helping as well. But registration deadline is Friday, March 29th. So make sure you get signed up because who doesn't like catching catfish? I know a lot of us CFNers do. So, Steve, if you're sharing links, thanks so much for that. Won't be able to get to any of the comments because, as I said, we got to keep going. As many of you took pics, I really appreciated all the posts that you folks made, especially if you came up to the booth and said hello. But I decided, you know what? Let's look at the show through the eyes of young Ava Ellison. And anybody that doesn't know Ava, she is a dynamo. Love this little girl. She is with her dad, Rocky. The two of them, the pair of them, have done some incredible things in the industry, and they're getting quite a reputation. And I want to congratulate Eva for winning the Great Canadian Female Anglers Prize Pack. It was $200 value that was raffled off, and it was raffled off for new members, and Ava was the winner. But we'll get through that with the eyes, basically the show through the eyes of Ava. And of course, as I said, this just happened this past weekend. It was a spring fishing and boat show. Ava and Rocky went on tour. They started at our booth, which, as you said, saw Manny. Those are the GCFA girls. That's the prize pack that Ava won. So congratulations again to you, Ava, for doing that. As she said, she got around to all of us CFNers and OFC Nationers just to say hello, Ava. And it was so nice of you to do that. She was very busy. She participated in a bunch of activities, including drawing at the Muskies Canada booth. She went to the trout pond. She went to the Nishin Lure company, hung out at Handlebars, bought herself a great lure, and, of course, tied herself a jig. But most of all, Ava, you came and gave me the best hug of the whole show, and I can't thank you enough for that. So, Ava, thanks for taking us on tour to the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. I couldn't have done it any better myself. Also, I wanted to speak about something that Gord Pizer had come up to me during the show at the very beginning. I think it was the industry breakfast. And it's something that he and his grandson Liam have been working on. We shared the first version, and I want to thank Gord for making us a part of this. He was so excited to tell me about it. Both Liam and Gord did approach me right away. Said, Scott, we want you to sort of get on board, and we'd love to see you help us promote it. I'm like, well, nothing you two do needs help to promote. But when I heard the podcast, Jeff Madany helped out with it, and it's about burbot. And it's all about burbot. If you don't know anything about burbot, or maybe you know a little bit about burbot, listen to that podcast. It's posted on the Canadian Fishing Network. The link is there. It is incredible. It is so thorough. This is the podcast, of course, that I'm talking about. It's both Liam and Gord. Doc Talks Fishing. And they're going to be doing this with a multitude of species. They started with the burbot because it is definitely one of the most misunderstood fish. They're now going to get into walleye and some of the misconceptions about walleye, muskie, you name it. But it's going to be a thorough examination of the fish, not just the fishing techniques and the presentation. It's got nothing to do with that. It's understanding fish. And when you hear the first one about burbot, if that doesn't spark your interest to wait and be anxious for the next one, like I am, I don't know, maybe you're not a fish lover, but if you love fish, you're going to love this podcast. It is absolutely phenomenal. So look forward to that. Our next event, of course, will be in Ottawa, as we're going to be mentioning tonight, and you're going to see some of these folks, hopefully, if not all of them. But we're going to be talking to Scott Sprague shortly, of course, about this show and the importance about this show and what you can expect at this show. So there's lots that's going to be coming up in regards to that. Scott's going to be joining us to talk about it. He's the show manager, and that'll be during the Big Jim's segment, so stay tuned to that. But I encourage all of you CFNers and OFC Nations to drop by the booth, as we will have some swag. There'll be some swag available, but also we'll be selling tickets to our next gen. And this is a raffle that we're going to be doing. We have some great prizes. So stop by the booth, pick up a ticket or two, and it will help these kids' events in such a great way. And, of course, anybody that knows what's going on with next gen understands the importance of molding, mentoring, whatever you want to call it. Let's just get the next generation of anglers fishing, and we can do it through next gen. So come on by the OFC Nation booth at the Ottawa show, and we will sell you a ticket that will certainly help us get that done. Of course, the Sportsman Show is after that, but before that, of course, is our show. This is the Made in Canada Tackle Swap, March 3rd. We're going to be giving away another $100 in show bucks tonight, courtesy of the name wheel. And if you're on it, if you already prepaid your ticket, you got a chance to win like our previous two winners, but this is the second last chance. You have one more chance next Monday, but make sure you buy. And all I can say, folks, if you are interested in helping out the Canadian tackle industry, this is a huge way you can do that. Either show up or even just buy a ticket if you can't. Any investment in this show is going to help the Canadian tackle industry. So we're really hoping that folks see the importance of this and show up and do their part. As I said, Sportsman Show will be after that, and we will be there via the Next Gen CFN Kids Fishing Derby event. And then, of course, CanCast is after that. And it was awesome seeing Kyle and the boys, Sean, Mark, this weekend. And we're looking forward to yet another fantastic show out in Peterborough at CanCast. Also, we have our upcoming CFN retreat. This is the 6th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge. Looking forward to folks who have already booked, and there's only one more cabin that is left to book. It sleeps 4, so if you want to be the last cabin in one of those 4 and have some fun at Horwood Lake, have a look at this. August 11th to the 17th is when it is held. It is $875 per person. That includes somewhere to lay your head. It's going to keep your belly full. And, of course, it includes a boat rental, not to mention the gas and bait that goes along with it. So for that last cabin that sleeps 4, get on it, get it done, and make sure your name is on the list of folks that are going to be coming. Of course, we can't do a CFN Live without talking about Camp McIntosh and our third annual OFC Nation retreat at Camp McIntosh. Have a look at this wonderful fish camp. So make sure you get a hold of Andre and Tracy. That's all the information that you need. They're awaiting your call. We're looking to book this up. There was a bunch of people that came to the booth, the OFC Nation booth on the weekend. Some folks that are part of our community, and a lot of folks that were not, that wanted and were asking for the pamphlets. So there's a lot of interest in this camp, and a lot of it is because of its location. It is fairly close to Toronto. Well, I would say in comparison to, say, Horwood. And the fishing's not that bad either. I mean, right where the French River flows into Georgian Bay, again, you can't go wrong. So please get in touch with Andre and Tracy. They would love to see you there. I would love to see you there, and all of OFC Nation would love to see you there. So not looking at any of the comments, perhaps any of the questions, because a lot of this stuff we have done before. I just want to make sure that everybody knows. We're going to be bringing Big Jim up next, and, of course, our special guest, Scott Sprague, right after a word from our sponsor. Big Jim McLaughlin in the house. How you doing, Jim?
I'm alive.
Attaboy. Well, and you had a hectic drive home, from what I hear, with the white.
Yeah, that's the first time in my life that ever happened to me.
Wow.
That it snowed so hard that the 401 came to a dead stop. And I'm just sitting there picturing those videos they show you where there's 45 cars pile into each other.
Yeah. Glad you didn't get into that.
20 minutes we sat there.
Wow.
20 minutes we sat, yeah. Dead stopped.
Well, hopefully, Jim,
I don't think I ever saw it snow that hard in my life. And while I was sitting there, I was looking on the satellite.
Yeah.
It was an area that was almost black as opposed to dark blue.
Oh, wow.
We were just west of Belleville. And it was really funny when it dissipated and you could see. I had followed a transport truck. I figured it was a good thing to follow. If anything gets in the way, he's cleaning it out. And we were actually about 6 feet from the cement retaining wall. So I felt my wheels on the rumble strip just before we stopped there. We must have just went over it a little bit, but I can't believe. Apparently there was a giant accident just towards Brockville with a bunch, and there was one with 15 or 18 cars at Belleville, but it was during the day.
Wow.
So they must have got a squall during the day. There was a whole line. It was just a scat of them. It was incredible. And it was really cool driving home because you're driving along and I'm coming up north on 15 here after I got off the 401. I'm thinking, geez, we didn't get any snow when I get to the house, and we got probably 8 inches of snow.
Is that right? Wow.
And my buddy Corey from the hardware store in town was just backing out of my laneway from plowing it. So perfect.
Thanks,
literally,
Corey.
we passed, like we had a quick chat. He had to go. So
You rock, Corey. Thanks for doing that, buddy.
He's going to bring his little girl to the Ottawa show. He was going to come down to the Andy's show, but she got up in the morning and she wasn't feeling well, so he figured, it's a 3-hour drive. Little one puking in the truck or something ain't good. So
yeah, nobody wants that. Who wants that? Well, before we get to the Ottawa show, and of course, our special guest, Scott Sprague, who's going to be joining us, who's the show manager, let's take a quick look back at the show that was this past weekend. A lot of takeaways, I'm sure, Jen, that you have. Obviously, it's great to see all of your fans and those who follow and look up to you, as we all do. But was there one takeaway that you had that really hit the hard?
Yeah, there was a couple. I just showed. I got to show you something. I got it on my phone. I was just talking to Brendan Nags, the perfect jig dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just talking to him, and I said to him, I saw his little girl,
Okay.
and I said to him, I said, Tammy, I mentioned it to Tammy that I had seen his little girl, and so the last time I saw her, she got so much bigger, and she stood there looking at me. I was sitting behind the table we were at there, and this is the little kisser I had to look at.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not going to show up, eh? Oh, there you go.
Oh, right there. Perfect. Right there. Oh, she's adorable.
Just adorable, eh?
Yeah.
I always bug him all the time. He'll show her helping him, and I say, hey, I'm reporting you. That's child labor, He'll have her do it, but she's just a princess. That was really cool. Obviously, my buddy Gord Ellis going in the Hall of Fame. Andy Pilata, so cool. He has his first grandchild. He goes into the Hall of Fame, and it was on a very special relative's birthday when she had passed, I guess. It was a birthday of her. So it just that, all those things were just so cool to him that it happened on that day. I was just talking with Vita earlier, and the young one was 8 pounds 3 ounces.
Wow,
that's a good one. Yeah, there they are, right there, right.
And I'll tell you, it was an emotional event for Andy, as it was obviously with everything going on, and when he shared that that was the date of his grandmother passing, that was special. But I'll tell you, he was taken off guard because he wasn't expecting this. This was a surprise. But the fellows to his left and right, both Tom and Gord, very deserving folks as well. But I am so glad that Andy got recognized in this way, because I think it's sight unseen, right, Jim?
Yeah, Gord actually started that. He sent a letter, an email, to a bunch of the guys, because once you're inducted into the Hall of Fame, you get the vote. And he took the list and sent it back to everybody. He took Andy's name off it, so Andy didn't know. So Andy really had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea that was coming. So that was a pretty cool thing for him.
And as I said to you at the show, at that breakfast, Tom's got that Burt Reynolds thing going on. Tom Brook, it's hard to believe that he hasn't been inducted already, because there's a guy that has done an awful lot for the fishing industry.
Tom Brook is Mr. Sport Fishing Canada. People don't realize that. Yeah. He's responsible for catch and release, basically. The investment that he put in when he was at the helm of Shimano Canada. And he was on the board of directors for Shimano America forever after. I think it was saying the other day, he's been retired for 13 years, wasn't he said?
Yeah, I couldn't believe
it. Seems
that.
like yesterday.
Well, for you, it probably seems, 100% seems like yesterday. As I said, I never got a chance to work with Tom, but I spent some time with him down in Tennessee.
He is such... Oh. Gord's a great guy. He's an outdoor guy. He's a fisherman. Yeah. He's a fantastic writer and everything. But Tom is bigger than anybody in Canada, for anybody that doesn't know that. And I would fight to the death on that.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That man has done more for sport fishing in Canada than anybody. The stuff behind the scenes, it's absolutely incredible what he's done. Hey, he brought me to Shimano.
That's awesome, dude.
I remember going to him and saying to him, hey, if I really want to be on the pro staff, and if you don't take me on the pro staff, I'm going somewhere else. And he said, well, I thought you were never going to ask. And I said to him, why? And he said, well, I sort of insinuated to you when I came to your store that we would love to have you. This was in the very beginning too, right? Yeah. And I was like shocked. I didn't realize that, because I didn't know anything about it back then. I was just a dumb kid. I was still at the point of drinking beer and fighting on Friday night. It's what it was. But no, I owe like everything to Tom Brook. Everything. I wouldn't be there. He went to John McLaughlin many, many years ago, and told John McLaughlin at John's Marina on Carlton Place. He went and told John. He said, hey, this guy's a really good angler, and tournament fishing is just starting. You might want to look at getting him, doing something with him, having him in one of your boats. And that's where all those pictures, that old Skeeter Starfire
Yeah.
with the 50 GT on it, eh?
Yeah.
All 56 miles an hour of it flat out. But that's where all that started. And, it's just, I owe it all to Tom. I owe the whole
As
thing.
do we. As do we. 'Cause
Yeah, everybody really, because it just branches out from it. Eh? He's so passionate though, like about the catch and release thing. And then I remember Tom telling me one day that and you've probably heard me mention this before, about how some of us went overboard on catch and release at first.
Yeah.
And it almost became that it was growing too, that it wouldn't have been cool to have a fish fry.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, when you look at the average angler today, how good he is, and then last week when I mentioned it about Dave Gens saying, he spent all his life teaching people to fish. Now he's got to spend the rest of his life begging them to let them go. Like there's really something to this and people don't realize it.
Really
the
is.
average guy. I mean, when I started going to Toronto Sportsman Show, the questions you got, like I've said, what's your favorite lake? What's your favorite color? After you just explain to them how to catch fish, that kind of stuff. But now it's not like that. The average guy and girl is a lot more in tune with what's going on. Like
No kidding. We saw that with all of the featured guests on the tank, as well as the Outdoor Canada stage. Some of the presentations that were offered up, tips, tricks, and techniques, were over the moon. And if you were lucky enough to be a bystander, participant, or part of the audience, you gained a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. And again, a big shout out to the Spring Fishing and Boat Show.
Well, it's really funny here. I'm sitting at the tank doing the manufacturers thing, introducing them and that, eh? And I'm sitting down there listening to these guys. And every once in a while I go, never thought of that. So you're never too old to learn. You've never done it all. And I say, there's a lot of fishermen out there that think they're on the top of the ladder. Well, when you start thinking that, you've only got 1 foot on the bottom rung. That's about it. You really need to.
Great advice.
You need to learn all the time. And there's stuff I do every day where I look at things and I see, geez, that's interesting. I never did that. Like I had a buddy of mine the other day came by and he saw the papers to print out the proof from my seminar. My PowerPoint was there.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes to me, all those different jig heads for, like flipping jigs, swim jigs, whatever. He said, does it really make a difference? I said, yeah, that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm talking about that this year. And I've never I bet it's 15 years since I talked about jigs.
Wow.
In a seminar or something. And I went over it all and I really thought through it all in my mind. And he looks at me and he says to me, What's the big deal with a football jig? What's the big deal with a football jig? He said, I got some of those. I use them for flipping. I said, well, why would you do that? Do you use a sand wedge when you're driving? And he looked at me because he's a golf freak. And he goes, no. And I said, well, you just offended me by telling me you're flipping with them.
That's hilarious.
And we were talking, and I was explaining to him about it, And I said to him, why, like a football head is shaped like Stewie Griffin's head. So when the football jig goes along the bottom, it can't fall on its side and get snagged. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
That's picture Stewie's head.
I'm never going to be able to see Family Guy again. I won't be able to look at Family Guy again without thinking about the football jig. But that is what a comparison. Jim, I got to ask, the Ottawa Boat Show and Outdoor Show. I know it was more of a boat show before. It has really blossomed into the outdoor show. You've been a huge part of that, as well as a whole host of others. How many years have you been going to this show?
Well, over 40 years. But it was going before I met Tammy. Going before I met Tammy. And I was doing stuff there. I remember once I bought a booth and I went and sold jigs. And I tied jigs for months and we went. And I think the show was 5 days at the time. It was Wednesday. And it was downtown in the Civic Center in the Aberdeen Pavilion.
Yeah.
And I think Saturday by noon, we sold all the jigs. So we had nothing in the booth. There was nothing there.
Well, I want to introduce the show manager, who you managed to get him to break away. And I know they're very busy and feverishly getting set up. But Scott was kind enough to jump away. He's probably hiding from the rest of the crew to join us tonight on CFN Live to talk all about the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show. Good evening, Scott. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, gang. You?
Oh, living the dream, as Jim would say, living the dream.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm here. Made her from the East Coast.
He sounds a little subdued.
Well, and I think the East Coast probably did it, and it is sometimes humbling. As welcoming as a group can be, sometimes you got to deal with the elements. And what were you dealing with out east, trying to put on a show?
Boy, oh boy, yeah, we certainly got off to a rocky start out east with our show season. We managed to get our RV show in January without issue, but we had our Halifax boat show, largest boat show, Atlantic Canada by a ton. And anyway, so that was, I guess, about 3 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago, and we were dealt quite a blow with 50 centimeters of snow on show weekend that came in Friday night, and it was relentless. It didn't let up right through till Monday. It just really decimated our show, and I was telling Scotty before, I felt so bad for our exhibitors and our dealers who have such a huge investment. No one wins in those situations, whether it's the exhibitor, the attendee who couldn't get there, show management, our partners at the association. It's just so deflating. You work all year, you got 4 days to do this, and and we don't get weather out east like that, or in Halifax at least, right? So it was a shock. And anyways, boy, so I was glad to put that one behind me, I'll tell you.
Push that to the side. Thankfully, as Jim shared with me, some of the forecasted weather that was going to be hitting the Ottawa area, and I'm pleased to say, as Jim attested to as well before we went live, that it looks like the snow is now going to turn into rain. So it doesn't look like we're going to have any weather issues at all in Ottawa this weekend, and that's great.
It's going to affect. I think they've changed it that even on Saturday and Sunday now it's a good bit cooler. Than it was supposed to be. So that's extra good, and no precipitation. It gets further south. It's down here where I am by Kingston.
So we can get to some of the featured things that I'd like to talk about and obviously bring to light, because anybody who is thinking about going to the Ottawa show isn't really sure. Let's dive right in and give them something that will be difficult for them to say no to. And, of course, we'll start with some of your featured exhibitors. I'm sure there's some highlighted exhibitors that you'd love to talk about, but as we play this video, you can touch on all of them.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show would not exist without our core dealers for the show. And this show is no different. We've got 17 dealers drawing in for this event this time around. They're part of a group that's almost of 100 exhibitors that's going to be in the building at EY Center this weekend. We have expanded back into 4 halls again. We did have a little retraction coming out of COVID, but we nice bounce back going into this season. There's our list of 17 dealers, I'm proud to say, are part of this show. So this group here compromises. You're going to see upwards of almost 300 boats on the show floor this year. So pretty impressive array. And we're going to wrap around that angling, overlanding, paddle sports, power sports. So this thing is really rounded out into full blown boat and outdoor show. So if you haven't been out before, this is this year to come out. And I'll throw this in as well. Nice little treat for all our attendees who are coming this year for the first time ever. We have free parking for our attendees throughout the whole show. So it's just something that we wanted to do. And so we got with our partners at EY Center to make it happen. And when you roll up any day this weekend, the gates will be up. Come on in.
That's awesome.
Parking's free. Yep.
Scott, over the years, the biggest complaint I've ever heard about shows is paying for parking.
Yep.
I don't know whether you'd echo that, but I hear people it's nonstop.
Yep. And you know something, Jim? We don't have that out east. You know, we're very fortunate that our trade venues have, you know, it's just not really a function of the facility to have paid parking. So certainly when we come up here and, you know, we kind of assume the contracts that existed with the building, and it was paid parking, and, you know, it didn't take us long to figure out that, you know, that was a problem. You know, it really was. You know, nothing more frustrating. Head to an event before you even got through the door, or time you got the car parked and paid for the family. You know, you're already 50 bones deep, and, you know, that's just puts a bad taste in people's mouths. So we wanted to tackle that issue.
So jumping on that and focusing on the positives, you have a lot of giveaways. Like some of them are pre-bought ticket giveaways, some of them are door crasher giveaways, some of them are raffles. You might want to just explain some of the various gifts and giveaways that are going to be handed out at this show this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're pretty fortunate to have some of our exhibitors step up with some really nice packages. For instance, out at Rockland Wheels, they've given a pair of Demon Thunderbolt e-bikes, 2 of them, to give away as part of his door prize. Everyone's eligible. As soon as they come through the gate, they can snap the QR code and enter to win that. Rockland's also put up a 3,000 watt Honda generator, which all of us can use. I know I could have used one a couple weeks ago out east. We've got a Napier tent giveaway. We've got a fishing charter on Lake Ontario, compliments of Get It Wet Sport Fishing and salmonlures.ca. And we've even got turkey camp with Rob Argue. So if you go to one of Rob's seminars this weekend, you'll be entered to win a turkey camp with Rob. That's a half-day session followed by a guided hunt. So those are just a few of the things that we'll be giving away this weekend.
That's awesome. And of course, one of the things that is a big hit at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, and is also a big hit because we see all the attendance that you get with these seminars. You have some guest speakers, and it's a long list of guest speakers. But did you want to highlight anyone in particular, or did you just want to talk about all of them at the same time?
Boy, we got a bunch, and I really have to tip my hat to this cast together. It's deep and it's long, you know, and it's headlined by none other than Big Jim himself, of course. But you know, so I really thank Jim for that. I mean, just to name drop a few or all. I mean, we got Rob Argue, again, so I just mentioned for turkey hunting. We got Lawrence Gunther, obviously, John Anderson, David Chong, Sean Landsman, Peter Larman, Rob Jackson, John Anderson, Ashley Ray will be with us, Kara Carmichael, Greg Amiel, Lisa Goodyear. Who have I missed, Jim? Jamie Pastilli. There's another one.
Yeah.
So it's a long lineup. Jim has really worked hard to put.
And as Jim has mentioned this past show, it's amazing that, you know, even as many shows as Jim has done, when these folks get up there, you know, some of the stuff that they've learned themselves over the years, over this past season, they share it with anglers. And Jim can attest that, you know, we heard some things this past weekend that we didn't know, and we learned.
Yeah, like I was listening to Paul Castellano talking about the Nishini stuff, and like it just, you know, I was just sitting down there, just clicked in my mind when he was talking about things, and it's really, really interesting. And then, you know, something that was really cool, we had when Dave Chong was up there, he was talking, and I'm looking at the crowd, and I posted it. I took a picture of it, and I posted it. Jimmy Lindner was standing like this, looking at Dave, listening to him do his seminar for about 10 minutes. That's pretty cool when Jimmy Lindner takes 10 minutes out of your day.
Amen.
You know, I mean, the Lindner name is the name in sport fishing as far as I'm concerned. You know, they taught North America how to fish, and it's really cool when he stops and does that. I'll tell you a funny thing from the weekend. So we're all in front of the hotel, and I come out and they go, "You have a truck?" Yeah, why? He says, we need to get to we need to have breakfast and we need to get over because they're doing the Muskie seminar in the morning.
Yeah.
So we move everything in the truck. Jimmy Lindner, Jim Sarek, and Jeremy Smith from Angling Edge pile into the truck, and we're halfway there. And Jimmy gets a text, and it's Vita saying, "Hey, where are you guys? You know this thing starts in 15 minutes, eh?" So we were just pulling in to have breakfast. I went back out the other exit, back into the International Center, dropped them off. And I went back and met the guys from Shimano and had breakfast with them, eh? But it was they would have been my fault bringing them to breakfast.
That's hilarious.
Lucky guys would have had me duct taped to a tree, setting me on fire.
No kidding. So, Jim, we get to the last thing that I wanted to talk to Scott about. Both of you have been an integral part of putting this on each and every year. And Steve and I had the pleasure of being there last year to see it firsthand, the number of kids that come through your casting pond.
Yep, that's the biggest thing. It was really funny. Tammy posted a picture on her page on Facebook the other day from a thing that came up in her memories. And it's a little kid sitting beside the pond. And she has a backpack on, and she's got just health issues that no child should have to deal with. And she had an oxygen pump and she had hoses in her nose, a poor little critter. And she was just a beautiful little thing. And she's sitting, and she sat for probably half an hour playing with a duck at the side of the pool.
Wow.
And then the mother came and took her away. But we're getting old now, so all little kids look cute like that, eh?
It's true. I had one of my biggest fans, Ali, come by the booth on the weekend, and I tell you, it does, man. It wells up when you see that you mean this much to another human being, especially a young.
Well, like when I have kids come to me, I had a kid come to me at the show. I think it was the last year. I think it was the year before COVID, and he's got a bag with him, and he takes out he's got a trophy. It's about this big, and it's got the bass on the top or whatever, and he holds it up.
Yeah.
And I look at it, and it's Ottawa Valley South Youth Bassmaster Champion, and the kid's there with his dad. And he proceeds to tell me that he won his first fishing rod at the pond. And then it's little things like that. They're just really, really cool. You see the years. And there's another guy that brings his kid to me. He has a book, and every year he's come and had me get a picture with the kid. From the first time I held the kid, I was scared because he was wrapped up in a blanket and he was like this long. I think he was born like on Wednesday, and they brought him to the show on Saturday. But the guy has a book with all the times that I've been in contact with the kid for some reason at a show or at a tournament or something. And he's got like 30 pages of pictures, eh? And I didn't see them. I don't know if they were there last year, but they definitely come around, and the kids there, I see him. I recognize him when I see him on Facebook and stuff. It's really, really cool to have stuff like that, It
is. And Jim, it's an honor to be a part of it. And I have to say, Scott, being on that end of the building and in front of all those kids and that trout pond, which is a hit. It's a hit for the families. It's a hit for the kids. It's a hit for everyone. But on that Saturday, Jim, I'll have to say I was blown away how many kids went through the casting pond. It had to have been over 1,000.
Well, it was a lot. I'll tell you that. It's a lot of kids. You can tell by how many prizes you go through.
That is true.
But I hit the jackpot here a couple of weeks ago with stuff. I sent Moira a couple of pictures there one day.
Yep.
Yep. It was hard to find stuff this year, though. You're looking for it, like they usually after Christmas, they put all the Christmas stuffed animals on sale.
Yeah.
And, they got a price tag on them, $32.95, and you're getting them for like $2.
Yeah.
Because they just want them out of there, and then you go to the show and the parents see a price tag, $32.95. Like,
so budget.
And of course, last year was the best ever because we got to use up all the toys that were left from the Renegade Bass that were in the trailer. They were all kicking around. Remember, Steve kept, brought them in a couple of times there because we were going to use them for the one here in the spring that I do, but we used them for that instead. Yeah. But it's just really, really good that the kids get all these toys that are donated and things. And Scott, I'm going to talk to you. I got an idea. I'm not going to mention it, but I think we got an idea how to make next year the biggest ever.
I'm in, bud.
Prizes and stuff at the pond. I got an idea.
Yep.
Well, here's the secret. We're all on the edge of our seat now. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate that. We got to wait a whole freaking year for that.
I might put you in on it at the show. I'll let you hear. You can be in on the conversation.
Oh, I appreciate that. And Scott, I have to say, as excited and anxious as you are right now to get this thing started and make sure everything is, done properly so that everybody that shows up is happy and goes away happy. Is there anything that you're really looking forward to the show? Is there one thing that you can honestly say, I can't wait to see that, or I can't wait to see that happen?
Well, quite honestly, it's quite simply pushing the bar forward on our outdoor section. Last year was our first real push at it. We raised the bar again this year, and I just hope that attendees who came last year enjoyed that edition, and I hope we're building a snowball here, right? And so for me, it's to get to the weekend days and see the aisles full and to see that outdoor section packed. It was packed last year.
Oh, that was the best I've seen since the Aberdeen Pavilion days.
Yeah, which is before my time, of course, but
yep.
I was just, finally we said, okay, we've moved the needle on this thing. And I don't think it was just about being first show post-COVID. I think there was more to it than that. And I just really think that the addition of the outdoor section anchored by angling is a natural addition for our boating audience and for our boat dealers in this show.
It's awesome, Scott.
Yeah, we got more this year. You got Peter Larman's coming this year.
Yes, we got Big Rito Tackle's got a store there, and obviously Ben with High Falls Outfitters got a big store.
Yeah,
and a bunch of other smaller.
Mark LaBelle coming there. Weapons of Mass Destruction makes
absolutely. Yep,
absolute stuff. Yeah, he talked to me several times. He comes here often because he comes to a pain clinic in Kingston from Ottawa, and he stops in on the way back all the time.
Yep.
He goes down and gets his injections for his knee, and he comes. Yeah, he always drops by. He's a great guy.
Well, I will say this, Scott, when this gentleman here is involved, good things happen. So I'm not the least bit surprised that the outdoor section has blossomed for you, and will continue to do so. When Jim's at the helm.
Him getting the High Falls back in was the big deal. That was one of the ones that was the thing I heard the most of last year, because you had a huge area of retail.
Yeah, that's right.
And let's face it, when people go to this show, regardless of how bad or good times are, they go in that show. They always have a handful of cash, that they're looking to get rid of.
Absolutely.
And, you have to give them a place to spend it.
And gang, listen, I really appreciate the support, Jim, from you and Scotty and all CFN and all the listeners out there. We really appreciate the support. I hope you like the product that we're putting on the floor. Come out and enjoy the weekend, and and win a stuffy at the casting pond, Jim?
Absolutely.
I'm in. Not you, Scotty.
All right, gentlemen. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time, Jim, as always, getting Scott here and everything that you do for the industry. Just before you go, of course, it is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So February 22nd to the 25th. Doors open at 10 all 4 days. They close pretty much the same other than Saturday at 6 and then 5 on Sunday. But just make sure you're there. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to see all the kids participating at the pond. And, of course, watching you folks jump in and out of boats is also cool, too. But looking forward to seeing these two gents and all of you. And we've got Lawrence coming up after a word from our sponsor. But Scott, Jim, have yourselves a great night. We're going to see you real soon, Jim. Thanks for much for doing this.
Scott, I'll see you tomorrow morning about 9 to dump my stuff in the corner.
I'll be there.
Right on,
Deal,
guys.
buddy.
See you guys.
We got Lawrence coming up next, right after a word from these sponsors.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Now, Lawrence, I have to say, firstly, it's always a pleasure to see you, but we're also going to see you at the Ottawa boat and outdoor show.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. I'm always there, and you know, it's my home neighborhood. But since 1991, when I moved to Ottawa, you know, going to that show and watching it go through its changes and evolution, so much in terms of shows have gone through such a big evolution with the onset of the internet. I mean, look how much the internet has changed everything, right? You know, radio, TV, it's all changing. But you know what? Outdoor shows, I think, are getting better. They you know, Scott's at the wheel there, and he's really turned them into a place for families can go and just be entertained, and you do a little shopping and win some prizes. But it's an event now, right? It's not just a shopping experience. It's an event.
No, it is. It is an event, and it has that event appeal. That's actually a really good thing, really good way of explaining it, because it is more than just what you described it. It is an event, and when you see the number of kids that run around, and they always seem to have something to do, it takes a lot of the pressure off the family trying to keep them engaged. And that casting pond, holy smokes, again, that's Saturday last year. I can't begin to count how many kids came through there, but it certainly pushed us to the limit. It tested our abilities. We may have lost a few pounds, but it was a lot of fun. But Bluefish Canada and Bluefish Radio, you're going to have a booth there, and I do believe you're going to be presenting as well. Are you not?
Oh yeah, on Thursday and Friday, both those days. And we asked Jim to put us on those days in particular because, you know what, the other thing, and I don't know if Scott mentioned this, but getting people interested in careers in the fishing industry, in the marine industry, in conservation, and all things that go around with fishing and boating, right? So there's going to be a lot of schools, technical schools, coming with their students and doing it sort of like a job fair kind of thing. Look, maybe no one's going to be, I don't know if people are going to be accepting applications or resumes or things like that, but at least, you know, it's going to give an opportunity for young people who are looking about what do I want to do, you know, for my career when I finish school, an opportunity to meet some people in the industry, to go look around the possibilities, right? So that's another great thing. It's another angle to the outdoor show that hasn't really been exploited, and Scott's bringing that in.
That's so cool. Well, we look forward to seeing you there, Lawrence. Of course, Jim, Scott, and the whole rest of the gang that we just saw. Erica and Mark are going to be there. We've got Eve's going to be there. There's a bunch of folks. Bob Bissonette lives in that area as well. So needless to say, I do believe we're going to have a lot of CFNers and OFCers there. But the fact that you're going to be presenting and a whole bunch of others are going to be presenting, we've got our angling community, our tightly knit angling community on front stage and in focus. So anyway, The future of fishing. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the future of fishing.
Well, you know, it's been the motto of Bluefish Canada since we were first incorporated as a nonprofit in the Industry Canada and registered as a charity with the Canadian Revenue Agency. You know, what do you stand for? Well, we're about the future of fish and fishing, right? You can't have one without the other. And the whole idea is look after it, right? Blue fish. It's about water. It's about fish. So what does that mean, though? Like, how do you break that down? And we've been plumbing the depths on that topic and subject with all sorts of people, you know, 428 podcasts and 50 just on the Great Lakes alone, newsletters, you know, consultations, webinars, videos, you know, all sorts of in-person meeting, going to the shows and talking to outfitters and industry leaders. You know, it's just there's so much to think about when you think about the future of fish and fishing. I mean, yeah, you know, you go to a show like the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show and you think, oh, man, there's the future right there. I want that boat, you know, I want that boat. It's like, it's 2 feet bigger than the one I got now. I need that boat or that side-by-side or that canoe or that fishing rod or that bait, you know, even something as simple as a bait. You know, you can easily get lost in that side of fishing and boating. And hey, that's what it's about, right? It's just it's a beautiful escape. It's a beautiful way to get out of, you know, all the stress in your life and put in its place something more beautiful and something more life, you know, sort of making life worthwhile and enlightening. But there's more to it. There's more to it, right? Like if you're connecting with nature, I would say the one thing is it's this One Health idea, right? And I've been doing a lot of research on that over the last 4 or 5 years. You give back, nature gets stronger. You have a better experience when you go into nature because it's stronger. So you give back, it gets stronger. You have a better experience. It's this circle of life, and they call it One Health, right? Health and nature, your health. It's all linked.
Well, it is, and it's something that we're going to be diving into here at CFN. I think it's something that we all know, and we've talked about at great length, is the mental healthiness that is provided through the outdoors and fishing. And we have a good friend of ours, Haley, that will be joining us in future upcoming lives that will discuss that. We're going to have workshops as well for those who need a little bit of extra help. But as I said, when it comes to the actual fishing, you're so right. It's tough to, especially for young folks, as great as the experience all is, and as great as it is for them, catching fish is equally as important as well. So making sure that we have fish for them to catch just makes it a lot more easier for the parents to engage the kids and keep them engaged. So hopefully we're going to be doing a lot more of that. Now, what are some of the upcoming events that you have dedicated to this?
Well, we do our get ready for fishing, right? Every spring where we get families out into dry land training, and we teach them the different aspects of stewardship. So things like water quality. How do you assess water quality, and why do you care? And why should you care about water quality? Yeah, it's important to take care of the water. We've got so much fresh water. 21% of the world's surface water is right here in the Great Lakes. So, there's that aspect to it, but it's also, what does it mean for the fish? And what does it mean, again, this whole idea of One Health? You take care of the water, you take care of the fish, you get to catch more fish and maybe consume more fish. So it's all related. Habitat and shoreline, right? I've had this conversation with Watersheds Canada and the Canadian Wildlife Federation. They do all this stuff, Love Your Lakes and the Natural Edge program, where they look at cottage owners, shoreline property owners, and look at their shoreline properties and say, hey, well, how can you make that more sustainable of nature and looking after that whole ecosystem to make sure it's thriving and it's not just a beautiful golf green, right? So that's a big thing. But I said, look, that needs to continue right into the water. The plant growth, the importance of plant growth doesn't end where the water begins. It's also what's growing in the water, right? That's all habitat for small fish and the cornucopia life that takes place at the shoreline. So habitat and shoreline and the resilience of that, especially with all this serious weather we've been having, floods and droughts and fire and heavy weather and storm surges and all of that. It even makes it more important that we figure out how do we do this without just pouring a whole bunch of concrete on the shore to keep our property from washing away.
And that is so important that you bring that up, because it is. I mean, sometimes it is just the first 6 feet out that is so important to the ecology of fish, the cleanliness of our shorelines. I would say the effectiveness of our shorelines, because shorelines in a lot of cases are being used as incubators. They are where a lot of our fish spawn. So putting up these barriers and these walls, and they're under attack all the time from Mother Nature. I mean, the horrific winds that you see in Lake Erie, how there is any shoreline left is beyond me sometimes with some of the wicked winds that they get out there. But needless to say, I think the importance of shoreline protection and shoreline management and rehabilitation should be front and center when discussing the future of fishing. I agree.
Yeah. People who own property, probably most of them fish or care about the fish, right? So yeah, it's important that we think beyond just the end of our dock, like what's happening down there. Other things, we've talked about countless times, and is invasive species, and there's going to be an interesting conference taking place in Belleville on February 28th. We'll be there, and a bunch of important people are going to be talking about the grass carp, right? Like what do we know about grass carp in the Great Lakes? So that's going to be an interesting event. Belleville, February 28th, 6 p.m. It's the Belleville Fish and Game Club. So check that out if you can make it. I think 50 people have registered so far for that. It's going to be pretty cool. But fishing pressure, what about fishing pressure? And Big Jim was talking about, that we were moving away from sustainable harvesting or just harvesting of fish to catch and release as the end goal of fishing. And then, people like Tom Brooks and others said, you know what, let's not forget about why we fish in the first place, which is to maybe bring home a meal and celebrate the day with our family and our friends. And maybe, address a little bit of food insecurity when times are tough, things of that nature. And it's just good for us. Like we're learning more and more just how good it is for our health to eat fish over chicken, over pork, over beef. Fish has a ton of benefits. Eating fish has just a ton of benefits. So there's a whole bunch of things about fishing pressure. And, people say, well, fishing pressure, when you put it like that, from anglers and commercial fishers, and they lump us all together and they say it's all bad. We're wiping out the oceans and blah, blah, blah. And I say, yeah, there's some problems going on in the oceans for sure. And there's problems going on in all parts of the world. But in terms of fishing pressure in Canada, I think we're doing a pretty good job for the most part in terms of how we recreate in both freshwater and saltwater. So I think we've got some good things we can teach the rest of the world. But I don't think we should just see fishing pressure as a negative thing. I think we should talk about what is sustainable fishing, right? What is a good amount of fishing, a good amount of harvesting, and how do we address that? How do we know when we reach that point? I think that's the challenge now that we want to know is, hey, if we're not just going to do catch and release, but we're going to harvest fish and we're going to support that, encourage that, and not hide that or run from that and say, no, that's evil, then we should also understand, okay, what do we know about that? And how do we know when we're pushing past sustainability and dipping into the area of over harvesting, right? So that's another question. And please, you guys listening, if you have some ideas about what future in fishing means to you guys, please let us know, and I'll make a note of this, because I think the list can just get longer.
I agree, and getting the angler input is integral to seeing this path to the future of a healthy fishery. But to your point, you're right. When it comes to fishing pressure, we shouldn't always look at it as a negative thing, especially in these times. Going out to the grocery store is not an adventure a lot of folks look forward to these days. We're under attack when it comes to food we eat. So it opens the door that, we have these free swimming fish in our various waterways that, we can target and we can consume. But I think more importantly, as you mentioned, and I know you're going to be talking about this at the Ottawa show, the importance of sustainable. It has to be sustainable. So going out and catching your limit every day to consume, is that the answer?
Yeah, that's Gord Pizer was saying. I heard him saying this the other day. Your limit is not your target, right? Yep. That's the limit of your how far you should push it is the regulation. They set those regulations that don't go. If you go beyond this far, we're going to have problems. But it's not your goal; it's your limit. So, yeah, you're right. We've got to understand what all this means in terms of taking responsibility and knowing when to say enough is enough, right? And that's so important. And then I think about the other side of it, like the whole catch and release thing, we used to just think, well, hey, as long as we're letting them go, it's fine. But look at all the conversations we've been having about bear trauma, right? And how much that's in the news lately. And this is a subject that's going on, on the West Coast, down in Florida, off the coast of Florida, where they're implementing rules about descending devices, where you have to have equipment to be able to return fish to the depth at which they were caught. Otherwise, you'll get a big fat fine. So, we're just catching up on that in terms of conversations up here in much of Canada, except maybe the West Coast. But it's not just bear trauma. There's other things, you look at the Major League Fishing, right? And, you touch that fish to your jersey, and you've eliminated some of the slime, that protective slime off the fish, it's a penalty. And so they're getting it. There's a bunch of things we need to adopt as general best practices, like swinging fish in and landing them on your boat deck, onto the carpet or onto the dry vinyl flooring. It's just not a great thing, right? It's not a great thing. Yeah, you caught the fish, you landed that fish, it didn't get away. Congratulations. But there's probably a more sustainable way to do it for sure, other than, having that fish flopping around on the floor and all the protective slime being eliminated and the fish giving itself a concussion at the same time. So there's a whole bunch of best practices about fish handling that we need to sort of evolve in terms of anglers and knowledge amongst anglers on how to do it, that we need to sort of celebrate and share.
Yeah, and I will have to say that those featured bass tournaments, like the Elite Series, how they handle those fish. Fish handling is of the most importance. Get penalties when fish do bounce off floors and aren't handled properly. So they're leading the way. They're doing a great job of being mentors to us recreational anglers on how to conduct yourselves, how to handle fish properly, so that we can ensure that these fish can be returned and be viable once they are returned. Because the argument that we hear about the barrel trauma issue is, well, we should just keep everything. Well, if we did that, what are we doing to the fishery? Is that sustainable? Just keeping everything? Absolutely not.
No.
At the end of the day, I think one thing that we should be instilling is, unless there is a reason, and I don't even know what that would be, but unless there's a reason, we should have the limit at 30. If barrel trauma doesn't happen if we catch fish, or at least there's a really good chance that it's not going to happen if you're catching fish under a certain depth of water. As soon as you get below that, all bets are off, or at least it could become 50-50. So perhaps maybe we should just be targeting fish in different depths so that we're not exposing them to that kind of trauma, and we can release them as viable fish.
Well, that's it. And look, we're doing these slot limits now, right? More and more, we're saying, you can harvest walleye within a certain slot size.
Yeah.
So, it's mandated you have to do catch and release. If you want to keep some fish, you're going to have to do some catch and release fishing to get to that slot size. Otherwise, it's going to be your first 5 fish. It doesn't matter what size they are. And that's problematic too, right? And never mind, what that's going to mean. People are just not going to keep their first 5 fish. They're going to let them go. They're going to do their own culling, because that's what we've been doing for a long time now. And then, but even like, you see this in Bay of Quinte sometimes with the trollers, right? And the ones with the downriggers, you look, oh, that guy's got a downrigger, and they're putting their balls down to 30 feet. So no, our balls are at 30 feet, and the baits are maybe at, running at 25, 28, depending on what kind of lip they have them on, or if they're floaters or whatever. But then they're cruising over top of fish that are 40 or 50 feet down, and those fish are shooting up to grab those baits like fish will. They know they can shoot up, grab something, and swim back down.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're held at higher levels for too long, which is what happens when they're caught, then all sorts of nasty things happen to them, and that's where the problems start to come into play. So there's a bunch of people who are bending the rules or bending the ethics around barrel trauma. They know better, and we just need to start finding ways to make sure that it's not okay to do these rule bending types of things.
Absolutely. And it's a great segue to this question that Sonia has.
Yeah.
Because barrel trauma is a perfect reason why. And I know the answer to this, but I want you to answer it. Sonia asks, are you allowed to continue fishing once you obtain your limit? Technically, it's not. Technically, it's in your possession, but are you allowed to continue fishing once you obtain your limit?
I think if you catch like say if it's bass and you're allowed to have 5 bass, and you catch another bass because it's a tournament, you're allowed to call. You're allowed to call, right? Like that's the difference between what we have here in Canada is you can self-call your limit as long as the ones going back are alive. If you're throwing back dead fish, that's a problem. Then you're breaking the rule, right? Because the rule is if you catch a fish and it dies, you need to put that fish to proper usage for whatever that means. Feed it to your cat, feed it to yourself, but you can't just toss it. And so that's a rule. But in some parts of Europe now, is the fish you catch is the fish you keep. And once you caught your limit, that you're done. You're done for the day. So it's a good question, and it's something we don't think about because we're just so used to the idea of having that freedom of calling, our catch, right?
Yeah, 100%. And as I said, I think when it comes to tournament situations, that is the that's the exception to the rule. But if you're a recreational angler and you're an ethical, conscious recreational angler, perhaps you should just be steadfast that when you do catch your limit, it's not about calling at that point. It's about going home and preparing the skillet, preparing, all of the accessories that's going to go along with your meal, and maybe calling a few friends to enjoy a nice fish fry as well. But once you hit your limit, I think us conscious and ethical anglers, we know it's time to get off the water.
Yeah, and do you really need your limit? I mean, like if you're at home, it's just you and your partner, and just the two of you, and you just want to catch a meal to have some fresh fish, right?
Yeah.
Do you need 5 or just 2 medium-sized fish enough, right?
Well, that's just it too. I mean, some of the possession limits that we have for some of our coarse fish like perch and black crappie, I think we need to revisit that because I don't know anybody that needs to take home 50 fish. But again, that's just my opinion. Some folks have other opinions, especially when you have people going to outfitters, and we hear that complaint all the time is when you get a possession limit dropped in a certain area that a lot of, say, American folks go up and visit lodges, that can have a detrimental effect to their clientele, and perhaps they're going to lose bookings because of it. So there is, I don't know, man, there's no perfect answer. I just think as ethical anglers, if we are going out with the intent of keeping, once we catch our possession limit, that's it. We're done.
Yeah. And then you look at the operators, the outfitters that understand that if people come up to their, fish camp or club or lodge or whatever resort, and they're filling their limits and taking coolers of fish home with them, that within 5 or 10 years, their business is going to start winding down because the quality of their fishing is going to start going south, and people are going to spread the word. Hey, don't go there. The fishing sucks, right? And then you're done. You're done as an outfitter. So a lot of them have realized this, and they're saying, that our future success depends on the quality of our fishing. So we're going to stop letting our clients come up here and harvest fish as if it was they were in the middle of the wilderness. And they were the first persons ever to fish this lake. That's just because they're flying in. They're not the only person to set foot on this lake this year. And people somehow get that in their mind, right? When they're doing fly-in or some sort of remote fishing experience, that they are, one of the few who have a chance to, enjoy the bounty. But it's just, dispelling that idea. I think it's pretty important.
Great. And Jason, there's a great link that he shared with us when it comes to the Care for Your Catch. That was a seminar that was put on at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show in 2021. He's given us the link, and it is if you haven't seen this, it's really cool. Jay, thanks for sharing that. Do you have any news items that you wanted to share as well, Lawrence?
Not a ton. We've been really up to our eyeballs in a big grant application writing. It's grant application season right now, so we're a little late on the news. We're hoping to turn that around over the next few days and get a news issue out. So we'll have to start, calling and see what we got out there. See what's happening in the world of fishing news. I mean, my God, it's winter. And ice fishing, I've just spent the day out, ice fishing myself today with the family, and thank goodness. And and there was a truck out on the lake, and we're looking, and then we're drilling our holes. It's 9 inches of ice, and some of it's cloudy, and you think, who's bringing their truck out here on 9 inches of ice? And then you hear about a side by side on the next lake over that went through the ice the night before, and it's still happening, right? So it's been a tricky year for ice fishing.
It has, and I know on the western end of, the eastern end of Lake Simcoe, some of the outfitters are still being able to operate in, and I think at this stage, that's who you have to trust. There's nobody else out there unless they're going out every single day and they're spudding and they're drilling holes. I wouldn't trust anybody's ice reports at this stage other than an outfitter who is on the water or on the hard water daily.
Yeah.
But we're getting into some weather that's going to pretty much eliminate whatever ice we have with all this rain and wind that's coming. So I'm hoping that folks are done with the hard water very soon. I hate to say that for the outfitters who depend on that, but I just don't want to hear any more people falling through the ice because they're chasing that fish.
There's going to be some good deals at the outdoor shows this year because, it's just been a strange season and strange economic times in 2023. So there's a lot of inventory on the shelves that retailers are looking to move. So if you're thinking about buying something and you got some money, it's there's some good deals to be had.
I agree. I see that as well. We got time for one more, Lawrence.
You know what? Let's put it out to the guests, see if they got something they can kick in on this. As these are the topics I'm used to beating up on. Fish health, I guess, is another one, right? How do you measure fish health? How do you assess fish health? Who do you turn to when you have questions about fish health? Or just like, what the hell did I just catch here? That's another one.
True. Well, there's a great question here from Rocky, and I do believe that there's a few of us that are running around that don't know the answer to this. So be interesting to see your take. But Rocky's asking, maybe I should know this answer, but if I have a freezer, if I have fish, a couple of wild caught rainbow in my freezer, am I later allowed to give one to a friend for consumption if they do not have a license for possession? Great question.
Yeah, I think don't quote me on this, but I remember hearing this not so long ago. And I think as someone who fishes, you are allowed to go home and give fish to your neighbor, give fish to the old couple across the road, to the single parent with the 3 kids that's struggling, to the family that just lost their job. You're totally allowed to do that. It's not in your possession anymore. You've given it away. You didn't throw it in the garbage. You didn't waste it. You fed your family and friends and community with it, and you're allowed to go and get some more.
Yeah, and as I said, it's a tricky line for folks to navigate. But when you are handing a wild caught fish to someone that does not have a license, then you are doing exactly that. You're giving them the possession of that fish. So unless they're preparing it for a meal or you're preparing it for them, under the circumstance that Lawrence just basically used as an example, that would be the only time that I would say it would be okay. I don't know what the legalities are, so I certainly don't want to stand on the line and say it's got to be this. Perhaps
and then we show up in court as sued because we gave the wrong advice.
Exactly. But I mean, you see it all the time, right? Like, I mean, you go down and say you're carp fishing downtown Toronto, okay?
Yeah.
And it's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to others. You catch the fish, and your intention is to release that fish, and then all of a sudden there's someone over your shoulder saying, "Are you going to throw that back? Because I really like to have that fish." I never, under that circumstance, ever do I hand that fish to that person. That's just me, and I might be following the rules. I might not even be following the rules. I don't like that whole engagement. It just gives me such a bad vibe, and typically I will err on the side of caution, and I'll say, no, I want to release it.
Well, you don't know how many other fish that person has in their possession already, right? They might have a trunk full with 2 coolers full of fish that they've been gathering from anglers that day. And by handing that person a fish, you might have just contributed, unwittingly to poaching.
Yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. Jason, Jay Barnucz just jumped in. He said, you can give away your fish if you are truly giving it away and not selling it. Selling it, absolutely. That is understandable. Lawrence, as always, my friend, you are a wealth of information, and I really like this upcoming segment, The Future of Fishing, that you're going to be working on. I like where it's going, and I look forward to seeing some of your future successes and sharing some of that here on CFN Live.
Thanks, buddy, and thanks for the opportunity, man.
Right on, dude. Well, we're going to see you in Ottawa, my friend.
Perfect.
Get ready. The UFC Nation trade is on its way.
Woo!
All right, buddy. We're going to be talking to Jay Barnucz right after a word from his sponsor. Take care.
The finisher is one of the most unique baits I've ever seen.
This bait is designed to fish for forward-facing sonar, and you work it with quick, snappy strokes with a rod tip on the semi-slack line to give it a nice side-to-side action.
The lateral movement is insane.
It may go right twice, then left, then up, then down. I mean, it's all over the place.
Not only can you cast it out in front of the boat and fish it back towards you, you can also fish it vertically, so it allows you to change on the fly.
The thing that I really like about this bait is some of these fish are suspended. We might be in 30 to 35 feet of water. These fish might be 10 feet off the bottom. And this thing sinks a little bit slower than your typical real heavy glide baits. But what it allows you to do is keep the bait above those suspended fish.
You see a fish on your sonar and it might be out there 80, 90, 100 feet. This thing casts like a little bullet.
It also gets down to the fish very fast because it tends to tilt nose down and it sinks.
I can keep it down there in the strike zone and work it side to side, super aggressive. Man, it generates a bunch of bites.
It really is amazing at getting fish to react that you would not catch otherwise.
Jay Barnucz is in the house. How you doing, Jay?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Good. And when it comes to the Berkeley family, there was a lot of products that there was a lot of buzz about. A lot of folks were talking. What did you see? That Crush City and stuff you guys have out, man, it is a buzz right now.
Yeah, we had some really cool baits, and you know, having the mega tank there, the CSFL mega tank, was really handy to show some of those baits off. And even for a lot of pro staff, these baits were released last year at ICAST, and they as with all companies, they go through rigorous testing, but we don't get our hands on them until like almost the next season. Some of that's because of winter for us. The market doesn't really lend us to have them in advance. So, hey man, it was great to show off some of those baits in the tank to everybody. And even a couple of those baits were new to me, and it was really cool to see. And, you know, after talking with the lure designers, the product developers at Pure Fishing, and I get to hear about the work that went into these products, but then now getting to see that, you know, in person, really cool stuff. I'm as excited as a lot of the anglers that were there on the weekend. Really cool.
Absolutely. And there were some other great products that came out as well. Ed was just mentioning the ones from Nishin, the drop shot hooks.
Oh, yeah.
They were buzzed. A lot of folks were talking about that. Were there other things that you saw that you had?
Nishin, his drop shot hooks. He also had a cool little swim bait head. And it had like, instead of like a full blade behind the head, it had like just a little tiny blade. He is so good at developing those. You know, they're different, but also a lot of it is in that sort of finesse fishing market. And you know, he always has a unique twist on sort of a traditional product, right? And the creativity with some of the lure makers is really cool. You know, Brandon Naggs has this new product, and it's I think it's called Active Paste. And so there's this product that if you cover your jig head with this paste, it gives a better return on forward facing sonar.
Oh,
at the same time, he has added it to all kinds of his terminal tackle. So whether it's a weighted jig, an EWG weighted hook for a swim bait, or possibly a Ned rig, he's done this. But what I think is cool is the pace that he has, because what we forget about with forward-facing sonar is, you know, in these baits like from Berkeley and others that are being designed for forward-facing sonar, those baits are still going to work on regular sonar, right? Like if you want to go jig for walleye, jig for lake trout, these baits that give a strong return. So that's the new trend, right, Scotty? Is a bait that gives you a strong return. I'll show you right here, man. Because you know what, dude? I got to load up on some new toys. So let me see if I got one here. I got one right here. So this is the new Power Shot from Berkeley. And I'm going to be honest, the brook trout in that tank on the weekend, and it's really funny that the brook trout love this the most. I can't even explain why that is. But so this is called the Power Shot. Okay.
Yep.
So it's a small, actually, I'll grip it like this. Okay. Wow. So it has an enlarged head for its size, but look at that little quiver on that tail, right? Now this is the second smallest size. They make one size smaller, and they come in all kinds of colors. It's got power bait, but that large head is designed to give a strong return on a sonar. I think that for forward-facing sonar, that's great. But even if you have regular 2D sonar on your boat or your kayak, and you want to drop this thing down to jig for walleye or to jig for lake trout, this will give you a better sonar return than other baits on the market, just because of the shape of the head. So don't think these forward-facing sonar baits are only for forward-facing sonar. That was kind of my message on the weekend, because not everyone has those baits yet, right? So I think that's really important. The other one I'm going to show you is the Berkeley finisher. So the finisher, and you'll see that line tie on there, instead of being in line with the bait, it's turned. And what it helps it do is when you jig this, it instead of a blade bait where it kind of runs up and down vertically, this bait actually hunts. Every time I twitch it, it'll dive to one side or dive to the other side. So not just the idea is that and it drops pretty fast, it's pretty heavy. You would throw it out, and as it sinks, you would twitch it and it would jump back and forth, and you would throw it to a fish you see on forward-facing sonar to get them to react. The reality is that if you don't have forward-facing sonar, this will still do the same action, and it will show up on your unit under your boat if you want a vertical jig with it. Ice angler, some of our ambassadors are catching fish on the ice this year with it, because instead of casting and hunting with it, they're actually just dropping it below the hole, and it literally hunts around your hole. As opposed to going straight up and down, it'll hunt around it and give that erratic retrieve. So just a couple really cool designs coming out this year, and it's good to show them off. The future's bright for fishing innovation, isn't it, Scotty? So much good stuff.
It is. And I have to say, we are sponsored by Shimano, and they always come up with some great stuff, but it was intriguing to see the buzz around the Berkeley booth when it came to some of the new products, and those Crush Cities. They just seemed to be the new craze. Everybody was talking about it at the show. So it's awesome.
And that's what's good to see, man. Like the Spring Fishing Show is about seeing the new product. So two things: see the new product and then get the new product. And some years that doesn't always align, right? Because of supply and demand and delays in manufacturing, and it's just life is easy if the new baits are at the show and we're talking new baits and people can get the new baits or new rods or new reels, and there was a lot of that hype, and it did seem like the attendance was down a bit this year. And we always, even before this show, we were pontificating about all the reasons why attendance is up and down, and we're never happy with it. We always want more, right? But honestly, it seemed like a lot of people were buying. I saw a lot of good friends at the show. Saw folks the shows are great because I get to see people that I don't see the rest of the year, but I see them at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. And so that was great. And we didn't have to drive through 4 feet of snow on this one. Like I didn't want to bring it up pre-show about what happened out east recently, but wow, I couldn't imagine having to go to a trade show with that kind of weather. Bad enough here, Scotty, we had some years where it was touching -40 at night at the Spring Fishing Show. Remember those years? Oh yes. People's cars weren't starting in the parking lots and stuff. I'm just happy that the weather for us this year was nice, getting around in February. So
I remember some nights when the show was over and the doors would open, and they were afraid the pipes were going to freeze inside. The fire suppression system was going to crack because it got so cold. So definitely.
And I'm going to add to Alicia here. She said so many people she didn't get to see, and I feel the same way. I'm getting messages tonight from friends who I didn't talk to, like Mike Parker. He's not listening, but he's on Messenger right now, messaging me going, dude, we need to talk for more than 2 minutes. And I'm like, I need to go to your house, Mike, because that's the only way I'm going to get to talk to you, because at a trade show, we're always talking to people, and you want to talk to everyone that you can, but it's never long enough. the conversations are left hanging sometimes, which is unfortunate, but it's just good to see so many people.
100%. One of the cool things too, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it, but the podcast that Liam and Gord had put on with Doc Talks Fishing blew me away. As I said, Gord was so excited to tell me about this, and both him and Liam came up and kind of took me by surprise because I didn't know where they were. Like, did I do something wrong? But they were so excited, couldn't wait to tell me. And after listening to that podcast, holy crap, are they diving into everything about fish?
Yeah, so I have a secret I can share now, Scotty.
Uh-oh.
So I had a really cool talk with Gordon, Liam, and Trevor. 4 of us had a good talk about this upcoming podcast at the ice fishing show. When was that? Last November. Yeah. And I told them, I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And I can't tell anyone because Gord swore me to secrecy. And when Gord Pizer tells you to do something, you do it.
Amen.
So I was happy to see the poster. I didn't get to hear them talk about it, but I saw the poster at the back of the stage where it was like, I'm like, oh, it's released now. I can like start thinking about it again. And I said to Gord, I said, you know, the best, what I love about Gord Pizer is his ability to be fresh and have fresh ideas and the things they think about. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there's going to be some great stuff coming out of that podcast. And I only have like a couple tidbits of stuff that I think is going to come out of it. And I think it's going to be on my playlist. I'm a regular podcast guy. It's going to move up in my rankings pretty fast, I think, because they're going to cover topics, not just fishing, but I think fishing industry, fisheries, science. It's going to touch on a lot of things that people are going to want to hear about. So yeah, make sure everyone subscribes and listens. You're going to love it, I think.
And Gord has made a promise to make sure that he shares the link with me every time one gets posted.
Awesome.
And as I said, I will do our very best to do him justice, because to what Jay just said, there's an upcoming episode about walleye. When Gord was telling me about the burbot, he only touched on a few things that had my chin on the ground. But when I actually listened to it, I had to go back and listen to it a second time, because there was stuff in you're just bombarded with all kinds of information. And Jeff Madity does a fantastic job explaining and just sharing a lot of what he has learned targeting these fish over the years. And the fact that they talk to one another under the ice, they don't spawn every year, and the ones that don't spawn that year are the ones that are guarding the area and guarding the nest. Fascinating stuff. So it is a must listen.
What's the name of it again? I forget the name.
Doc Talks Fishing. Doc Talk
Right.
Fishing. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I saw Liam at the karaoke party on Saturday night, and what did he say to me? He said something about you know, we're just getting under the surface or something like that. And I'm like, that sounds like a podcast title right there, bud. You know, like, so, and he stopped, and you could see like his Gord Pizer mind, because they're the same stock, man. You see his mind start turning, and I'm like, I got you going now. He goes, yeah, I gotta go. I gotta think about this now. So like they're dialed right into this podcast. It's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be a real big hit.
It is, and they said that they would love to come on, and if there are certain segments that get shared that people want a little bit more in depth or want stuff explained, Gord said reach out, and he'd love to come on CFN Live and do a segment.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Yeah, good way to. Well, and hey, man, you had a you know, I don't want to spoil anyone, but we had one of M&R's COs reach out.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't want to spoil that, but that's going to be a good show. That's going to be a great show. Won't tell who it is, but I said to you that's the guy. That's the guy you want. So, and all these questions we're having tonight about possession limits and giving fish away, and you know, you and I'm going to help you if I can about questions. I have questions. So, you know, to ask a CO questions is going to be really cool. So I don't want to spoil it, but I think that's a good teaser for us.
That's a great teaser, and I'm really looking forward to it. Once the show season has sort of calmed down and we're in that lull and transition, whether we're going to be targeting walleye, we're waiting for bass opener, that's going to be the time when we're sort of sitting there getting our gear ready. This is when we'll launch that podcast. And Jay, I can't thank you enough for setting that up, because it truly is going to be something special.
Well, hey man, but you brought it up tonight already, and I hate to beat that dead horse, but dude, we have to talk about this for a minute. I'm going to put a link in the chat. Just so everyone knows, we are at the lowest ice coverage in the Great Lakes in 50 years, lowest ever. Just when we thought it couldn't get lower, low. Lake Erie's at 4%. We should be at around 68%. Lake Ontario's at 3%. Lake Huron's at 21%. The North Channel's got some good coverage. And Lake Michigan's at 11%. Lake Superior's at 13%. So this is going to really, I'm curious how this affects our water levels and things through the year, Scotty. We can talk about climate change and we can say yay or nay and discuss that. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. These cycles have long-term impacts on what we do, what we love. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we won't know until we're not in spring yet. Meteorological spring is March 1st. March 21st is seasonal spring. So we're still a month away, depending on how you look at it, 2 weeks to a month away from the actual start of spring. But here in Southern Ontario, like everywhere pretty much south of Great Lakes down, there's just mild temperatures the next few weeks. Some of it's below zero, but not much. So yeah,
no, it's time. I hate to say it. It's time to pay heed to all of these concerns that folks are having. The shout outs. People are in some cases demanding folks not to go on the ice. I don't want to take away fishing opportunities, but I certainly don't want to be hearing about people falling through the ice and perishing. So I think, again, we can't stress it enough. Go out with an outfitter. The outfitters are the only ones that are doing this every day. They're the ones spotting. They're the ones drilling holes. They're on this all the time. The eastern end of Lake Simcoe, if you're talking about areas south of here, I've heard that it is still somewhat safe. But again, stress. Mitchell's Fish Huts, anybody out there, make sure you reach out to them and book through them. It's not a huge expenditure, and you're going to make sure that you're going to get to shore.
Yeah, that's right. So you and I have talked, we don't like all of these pictures. Good Lord, man, all these photos of recovery. And I don't want to see it anymore. It's a necessary evil, but I don't like seeing it all the time, right? So
100%. Yeah. And Rocky, you and I talked about the droughts that are upcoming, the possibility of forest fires. Yeah, it doesn't look like we're setting ourselves up for a moist, as our buddy Trudeau would say, a moist summer.
No.
Yeah, it's concerning, to say the least. On a positive note, something that I think, Jay, when I got the text from you, I had no idea what you were talking about, but you said between 3:15 and 3:30, be at the big tank. I got a surprise for you. And what a surprise it was. I want to just share a video, but I want you to talk about it. There's no sound with it because I wanted you to describe what. I walk up to Heather, who is obviously there in the stands, and she's watching, and of course I could see that it's already starting to flow. I almost started to do it myself, but your family has such an important part of our OFC CFN community.
So happy the girls came this year. They don't come every year, and I'll talk about this. Like, there's Trevor up on the tank, right? And this came about, and I'll give total credit. This was not my idea. This was Corey Page and Cam Brownson at Pure Fishing at Berkeley, and they said, "Hey, Jay, you've been doing these seminars with some of our young guys this week. We have a couple young guys on pro staff that I was doing seminars with, and they said, we want you to do that with Trevor." And I said, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "Because listen, man, you've coached your kids in sports, so have I. Mm-hmm. I'm very sensitive to the coach's kid mentality. I'll put this right out there, right? So when I coach my kid, I'm the toughest on him, right? Yeah. And I'm not going to put him up there. I'm going to let someone else make that call." And when Corey and Cam gave us that chance, we did that. And so the way this seminar went down was, and it works. I actually love this style of seminar. And I learned this style of seminar from Jim and a few others over the years, where you cast, so you have someone up on the tank. When you're on that tank, you can't see what the bait's doing all the time.
Yeah.
So it's so great to have someone up on the tank, casting it out, retrieving it, putting action on the bait. And then me as MC, I got to channel my inner Scotty Martin. I'm trying to ask Trevor or whoever's up there, ask them the right questions that they know they know the answer. I know they know the answers. So I have to share that. Like, that's really how that all came about. I'm gonna see if I can actually show this, Scotty, if I can share a picture for a second. So this is it coming up? If it doesn't come up,
there it is. Yeah, there it is.
No. So there you go. So Mom was so happy to make this happen, and of course Stephanie there too. So it was just a really, really fun time, and the kid was a natural, dude. You were there. I'm his dad. I don't want to. I'm trying to keep him grounded. That's what dads do. Okay. He did a fantastic job. He didn't slip up once. You stumped him on a question, which was great. I loved it. I loved the challenge of it. And, but he handled it with style. And if you didn't really know him, you wouldn't even really know he was stumped, but we knew he was stumped because we know him. Like, you know,
and I'll be honest with you, how he recovered, because you could tell. And that's why I said, when I reached out to him, I sent a message of how proud I was on Messenger. And I said, listen, dude, don't look at the foul-ups. Don't look at the negatives. Focus on the positives, because how you recovered. As soon as he said, hey, Scotty, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you just did that in front of a whole audience. Anybody that has the guts to do that, to acknowledge the fact that they got stumped, you're on a different level than a lot of people. Yeah. But the recovery and what he came out with after, I hope everybody listens, because I'm sitting there with your wonderful wife and saying he completely recovered himself. Like, that was, oh my word, what a proud moment. But
it was, dude. We have Heather sent a picture last night. Oh, I wish I would have brought it up. I'll have to share it sometime. It's a great picture. So I will share this picture before Oklahoma, but I'll tell you this up front. It's the back of two little heads, Trevor and Owen, at the spring fishing show many years ago. And Gord Pies was doing a seminar. They're front row and they're just like leaning over, like absorbing everything Gord's saying. Trevor and Owen, like, so to see this kind of happen this year, dude, these kids are both like 6 feet tall now. They're not like they're not little kids anymore, right? But I love the memories that this show creates, and we all have them. It's not just me, it's you, it's everyone who's talking in the chat about this show has memories at this show, and quite frankly, that's a lot of what brings us back. It's not the new tackle, it's not the new products, it's making new memories, right? So, and every year there's something cool. Like this year, Stephanie, she got to hang out in the Berkeley booth. She got to work the reel counter with Alicia. And Darren Azumi, who she loves, loves Alicia. She even said to me she'd rather spend time with Alicia than her dad. So I'm just going to put that out there. Which I can't blame her. But she gets, like, over the years, everyone at that show is treated, and I'm going to tell everyone who's got kids out there, everyone has treated my kids like royalty. Long before I was even with Pure Fishing, the free baits, the conversations, like just talking. If you love fishing and you're a young angler, go to the show, talk to people, introduce people. I saw so many. I know I'm biased. Alicia's one of my good friends, our good friends, like our family's good friends with her and TJ. I saw so many anglers come to the Berkeley booth to talk to Alicia. Young women, young kids. That's awesome. Yeah. Like, that's what it's all about, man. It's Amen. So cool. Absolutely.
Amen. Ed, you said it best too. The camaraderie, 100%. We just don't get the chance. Of course, you know, when you're talking through Messenger and Texas, it's hard to keep up those relationships. Yeah, it's difficult. I find it very difficult myself, and I feel bad for those who don't get the attention they deserve. And Ed McKenzie's a perfect example. Brought his whole family there.
Yeah.
And just at that very moment that he showed up at the booth, we had several other people. And I have a hard time sometimes sharing my time. So I understand the troubles you have. I understand the troubles Big Jim has and Alicia has. It is a fine art to be able to share equal amount of time with everybody. But just so you know, it's really important to us too that we do that, because we want you folks to feel important, because you are so important to all of this. So, and
just, I don't know, man, just so many, Andy and the family do such a great job at this show. They really do. I wish I could have been there Friday morning. I was actually at the Berkeley office at 9:00, load up more stuff that they wanted to bring, and I'm glad we did, because we had so many giveaways happening. And dude, I love the giveaways. Personally, I'm giving people free tackle. They buy this, they get this for free, and that makes everybody happy, man. Getting some perks like that, it's awesome. So I was happy. I was also happy I brought Trevor, because dude, having some young legs to take those boosts down.
No kidding.
Let's CFN, we're about behind the scenes. Yeah. When you're going to take that booth down on a Sunday night, you're wiped. And now you got to get a second, not even your second win, it's like your third win or fourth win.
Absolutely.
And Trevor is, I make a joke, he's 6'2", but with hair, 6'1" without. And he was all arms, reaching up to get those LED lights. You know the ones I'm talking about. That really, if you want to climb up there, you're going to hurt either you're going to get hurt or you're going to break something on the display. Well, man, I was glad he was there. I was glad he was there to help us take all that stuff down.
I'm amazed at how quickly that show gets taken down.
It's like amazing.
By the time I left, and I said, Moose and I, we sat around because we didn't get a chance to really talk. Like you said, we're too busy with our community and sharing our time. And it was nice to just sit down there with Moose. I think we enjoyed a beer together and just to kick back and reconnect. But in the background, holy crap, that show gets taken down in the blink of an eye. It's amazing.
And just cool things happen. I kind of like the show. It's only 3 days because I like having family day. It's not off, but I work today actually.
Yeah.
It's not a federal holiday, but no one's going to feel bad for federal employees. So that's all good. But I will say this, like having that extra night is nice to catch up with people, because at the show we don't have time to see people. So, the Friday night we get in, I catch up with all my pure fishing buddies, all the Berkeley guys. We get together, order some pizza, and we talk, and we're all friends, but we're all across the province. So the first night. The second night, the karaoke party is great. That's always good to see people. I went for dinner at the Lone Star. Dude, I'm sitting with the Berkeley guys, and then Peter Young comes in with one of his friends, and Pete's like, I don't got a reservation. I'm like, you do now. You're sitting with us. So I got to have dinner with Pete. Him and I talk all the time, never in person.
Yeah.
And we got to sit down and talk kayak fishing. Pete is an amazing videographer, photographer. I got to just pick his brain about some stuff. That was awesome, just being able to do that. I wish the show was longer just to go and kind of have those conversations that we don't get to have. So, but dude, there's some great shows coming up. I'm not going to Ottawa, but I'm telling Mike at Handlebars, I'm like, hey man, I'm going to be at the Hamilton Bassmasters event. I'm actually got a table there. I'm going to be doing some clearing house from stuff at home. We're going to be in Woodstock, and I think I have to go to CanCast this year. I'm taking way too much abuse for not going last year. So I think I have to go to CanCast this year. I think it's going to happen.
That's awesome, dude.
Lots of time to catch up with folks.
Well, as I said, we are just on the brink of what we call show season. It starts with the boat show. It usually follows right after with the spring fishing boat show. And then the gauntlet of shows begin. And it all gets wrapped up at basically a CanCast, as that is probably one of the last big shows that I know of, at least in this area.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of what transpires leading up to that. And as I said, by that time, we're all going to be in need of enjoying a beer together, sharing a story or two. But
I was kind of thinking if I go to CanCast, I'll have to go the night before, and it might have to be like a little bit of little bit of end of season soiree, if you know what I'm getting at, Scott.
I know exactly what you're getting at, dude.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing you there then, Jay.
All right.
And as always, every Monday, thanks so much for all you do for our community. And again, give Trevor a big high five for me.
Thanks everyone for coming, and talk to you guys next week.
Right on, Jay. All the best, my friend. Well, that wraps up another show. Again, thanks so much to all who showed up at the UFC Nation booth. Really appreciated that. Again, we're going to be in Ottawa. Thanks to Scott Sprague for showing up tonight and explaining what we're going to see there, what we're going to do, and what to expect. Because as I said, Big Jim, he got us hooked on this show. Love it and look forward to getting back. But again, it's because of all of you that make this happen. That I'm truly humbled and honored to be your friends. I love you all. You guys bring so much to this community, and don't ever think that you're not important, because you are, and we'd be nothing without you. Have yourselves a great week. For those who I'm going to see in Ottawa, I'm looking forward to you. I'm getting the hugs already, and drive safe. In the meantime, think about fishing. Oh, and listen to the podcast that Gordon Liam did. Absolutely fantastic. Dave Mercer, saw you at the show. Thanks for being a part of our show here every Monday. So it's your turn, dude. Take us away. All the best, folks. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things